welcome to my diary, an unedited, truthful account of my thoughts on life and living in my tiny little bus, the Prancing Pony. Thank you so much to my patrons for making content like this possible. I couldn't do it without you. There are 3 woodpeckers on a dead tree, chatting and hopping about. I suppose I never thought of them as particularly social creatures, although they don't seem mad about the company. It didn't seem like they were competing, just simply, hi, hello, how do you do? How's things? The old oak trees are very talkative here, although there are lots of newcomers as well. It's just nice to not feel alone. And I just love seeing all of the teeny tiny tip of branch size cedar trees popping out of the ground. We are encased in a circle of watchful cedar trees, almost a fiery orange colored bark, with their very unique needles, if you will, flat and broad, almost hand-like. I like them very much. They have a lot of really good advice. It's incredible how blaringly loud the sound of a teeny tiny chipmunk can be in a forest. We almost mistook one for a bear when we first arrived, because the little guy was just so enthused. It couldn't possibly be from something that small. Until he revealed himself, of course, and I felt a bit silly, but I had a good laugh out of it, that's for certain. It's so interesting to be in a place that has suffered from a wildfire about 13 years ago. There's life everywhere. The older trees, the wise, tall ponderosas, cedars, oaks, are black at their base, some of them higher up than others. But they're going strong. I'm sure some of their friends were not so lucky, as there are stumps about the area that are charcoaled. It's just a nice reminder that when things are really bad, when your life is literally on fire, things can turn out okay. You can still stand, you can still be green, and you can still grow. And that's comforting. Cars travel by more often than expected here on the road, as it's a popular place for off-roading, which a part of me does not particularly enjoy the noise. And having strangers peek in on camp as they drive by. But at the same time, it's a comfort to know that if something does happen, help is not far behind. I'm anxiously awaiting the return of my beloved. It's been a really hard past few days. Really, really difficult, challenging, and emotional. The place we rented for the month did not wrap up so well, and I have to deal with the rest of that later in the day. I have to move back to service since we are out of range here. But it's just a quick drive, not even a quarter mile. and I'll have a bar or two. Oh, my ego plagues me with swinging things back and forth, dropping the movie curtain, reliving, living things that have yet to happen. With this situation, and I long for it to be done, and for others too. Stop treating me like a child. This is also the first time we have been out and about in the wilderness without a place to store things. Fortunately, for the 6-week trial run in the bus, we had a storage space rented. We knew we weren't nearly done building, and so the table saw, miter saw, extra materials, and things we had yet to put into the bus were all safely locked away in almost the southernmost part of California state. But now that's gone, and we can't afford it either. I suppose the storage space isn't the only thing that's gone. All of our finances are as well. And trying to get the bus to where we wanted it to be was such a task. I haven't been able to work. And my fiance's unemployment ran out several months earlier than was originally expected. So we are in a bit of a pickle. But being out here, the air is a lot lighter. Oh, and a hummingbird just zipped past me to remind me of such and bring me back to where I am. I'm just so thankful to be here. And if I was going to have a crappy day like I did yesterday, I'm glad I had the sturdiness of my neighbors and the wisdom in their shade and strength to gently help me through things. Yeah. It's so interesting going back and living in a place on grid, I suppose, tied to the grid, a place where there's seemingly unlimited water, power, and everything else. It's very easy to kind of fall back into pits of anxiety. I wonder if this chipmunk perched on the rock close by understands anxiety. I mean, one would think. Do I have enough nuts for the cold season? As we are at the highest peak in California, I believe. Way up in Green Valley Lakes. We are higher than Big Bear. We are higher than Lake Arrowhead. And it's not uncommon to get 5 feet of snow in one wallop up here. Or down the mountain, which is only I believe a half an hour to 40 minutes from here. It is hot Southern California valley weather. Watching the temperature climb and climb from 75 up in our cozy spot into the hundreds at the base of the mountain, not far from the life we used to lead, as Los Angeles is only an hour and a half or so from here, with very similar weather to where we lived in the valley. It's just strange. Suburbs seem unnatural. Cities seem overwhelming and oppressive, but I am thankful that they are there. Well, first of all, they helped me get through a lot, and I lived my life in a city for quite a long time, and in another city, actually, now that I think of it before that. And being not too far, they do provide a lot of invaluable resources, like tools and supplies that make the life I'm living now possible. But there's a lot that comes with being in a populated place, and not just the people that live there, although that is a part of it, and that is a part of why we left. The air is heavy and dense and thick, and I'm sure it being 105 doesn't really help with that. But there are a lot of things that are made to seem important that are not so. Everything tries to seemingly trap you back into that mindset of you need to have this, you need to do that, you need to participate, consume, purchase in all of these things they used to be normal. But not anymore. And my gosh, what a mind shift that is. Our big victory of the day was we simply turned the bus around because we figured out our oak friend up here is a little too shady where the solar panels were, so just a simple 180-degree turn. And now I can have the refrigerator on all day and hopefully all night, as it has not been able to have enough power to sustain us the last few days to keep the refrigerator running all night. I hate being wasteful if things in the fridge go bad. A tomato was molded over, so I mourned that loss. But turns out just a little turn was all we needed. And that feels really good. A simple solution to a problem that seemed quite large. I love food. I enjoy food very much, and I plan on eating what I purchase. So we're able to stay in this magical little corner of the forest for the full 14-day stay, which, come to think of it, will be our first actual 14-day stay of our journey so far. In the 6-week trial run of living in the bus, we never quite made it 2 weeks. We almost did, on top of a tall mountain well, not quite as tall, but a tall mountain in San Diego, probably between 2,000 and 3,000 feet up. We got caught in a heat wave and were forced to retreat down for our safety and the safety of our beloved kitties. That was scary. That was really scary. But we made it. And we have friends and loved ones in San Diego. So we do not feel afraid anymore. At the time, we didn't really realize just how much of a support system we had down there. But it wasn't until we asked. And they were there. And we have since returned to San Diego to empty back out that storage space, close it out, close the bill, and head on to the next leg of our adventure, which was the place we stayed that did not turn out well, that I alluded to earlier. But we are beyond that now, and we are officially, I feel like, on our voyage through a sea of green. Not that we weren't before, but we always knew that there was some kind of break point, an end. It was only meant to be 6 weeks of how does this work, and this breaks, and does this work better in a different place or not? And it was very successful at all of those things. Although not a lot actually broke, save for one drawer. But that actually inspired a Big Dosey Doe of things in the bus. We had originally our chest refrigerator on a big drawer in the cupboards under the kitchen counter. But it turns out if we weren't perfectly level anywhere, it was so hard to operate because I have limits. I have disabilities and chronic conditions in my musculoskeletal system. So if we were tilted the wrong way, I couldn't even open the drawer at all. Or if we were tilted the other way, the drawer would just roll along its merry way, whether you wanted to or not, and was quite a bit of a hazard. Not to mention, we actually didn't realize this at the time, but needed to make the cabinet itself about, 3 inches bigger, wider than it was, so that the tops could be fully opened, which, we didn't account for. But we have moved it to a new home. It has now taken the place up by the driver's seat. I made a little wooden tabletop for it and stuck it down with Velcro. And it's wonderfully functional as both a table for the passenger seat, a place to put beverages and anything extra for whomever is driving. And also it's very well ventilated since the sides are not covered. So that is where our litter box for the cats used to be. And that was our plan, was to build them a little cute house of their own. However, since we moved the refrigerator to where that was, since it seemed to be the most reasonable place for it, we then moved the litter box into what was dry goods storage in the pantry. So, since the pantry became the cat closet, if you will, which the litter box we already had miraculously fits perfectly inside, and they seem quite happy with it. I made them a little curtain and everything that is just the most beautiful lush green color, and they seem quite pleased. I'm absolutely thrilled. So the dry pantry then skipped over into where the refrigerator once lived. So a bit of musical chairs, but I do believe everything is for the better. Speaking of drawers, as I had mentioned with the refrigerator, a lot of the drawers liked to open on their own or not open as well if we were tilted in a particular direction. And we had to put all these ugly locks on them that were just a nuisance to use. And if we were tilted just the wrong way, they would open if we forgot to latch them, which again is a bit of a hazard. So we took out all but one drawer, built shelves instead, and then I engineered them so that there is a weight blocker for sliding. I'm not sure I'm explaining this very well. I engineered them so that the doors would not take the pressure of what was inside when going around a turn. I built up a small barrier to take all of any sort of weight shifts and changes, so our beautiful new doors that we built for the cabinets didn't have to bear any of that load. It's nice. We don't even have to lock them anymore. All of our little doors function beautifully, perfectly, and they look so gorgeous. I used the most lovely, delicate leaf molding that I had been daydreaming about for what feels like over a year, I think. And I very bravely decided to craft my own cabinet doors using a picture frame building technique, which is of course not traditional because it's really hard to do, but I think they came out so beautifully and I'm so proud. And they hold in place with just the occasional magnet and some Velcro. Stress-free and easy. That was a big thing for this whole last period, was how can we make this more stress-free? How can we make this easier on ourselves? And a lot of the time, simplifying is it. I know how to build a drawer. I know how to build a functional drawer. But having that in a tiny place that moves was not ideal. For us anyway. I know a lot of others would disagree, but that's just my experience, and so we made those changes. Speaking of changes, we have officially decided to go for a winterized water setup by not installing a gray tank under the bus. Of course, there's lots of steps you can take by buying 12-volt heating pads to stick on top to keep it defrosted, and insulating the containers, but that's just too much. It's too much. And like I said, we're out of money. So, on a whim, I discovered that one of the jerry cans we have, actually both of the jerry cans we have, fit absolutely perfectly under our sink cabinet. And one of them I can run the sink drain directly into. So then, once a day, not even when it's full, for the sake of ease, since we use all safe and biodegradable products, we just gently, and following all of the leave no trace guidelines, water the nearby plants. I think the ferns really appreciate it. Their color makes my heart swoon. And I just love them so much. Simplify things was advice given to me by a friend of mine who has also lived this lifestyle. And her advice was, just simplify. Just simplify. And we have quite a bit, now that I think about it. And goodness, has it relieved a lot of stress.